Since I'm done with the main part of the 10 years of Amiga gaming series, a supplemental episode is still to come in the near future. And I've already made a video on how to play Amiga games on PC, link will be in the top right and in the description below. I kinda figured it would be cool to make another, for those who do want to try some of these titles but either lack tech savvy or time, or even will to dabble in emulation. So this is it. Today I'll show you how to play Amiga games in your browser without the need of configuring anything or intimate knowledge about kickstarts, emulation, ADF files or anything else really. No installation or configuration necessary, just a browser and internet connection. So it's as good time as any to ask you to smash those like and subscribe buttons below. It's just a 2 clicks for you, but maybe a game changer for me. And if you're in a more generous mood, I also have a Patreon, but that's totally voluntary. And nothing ever will be hidden behind a paywall. But it would help me make better content, upgrade my editing rig, maybe even get a camera, who knows. Anyway, some time ago in 2016 Internet Archive decided to put a lot of Amiga content on their website in easily runnable form and accessible to everyone, so that the memory of the computer could be forever preserved even long after the last remaining machines will be long dead. And that's what we'll use here today. Granted, not all games are available and those that are not always in working condition, but most are, so it's a valid project for tonight. And there are over 4500 of these here, so even if some are duplicates, it's still a lot to choose from. So, all you gotta do is type in the above link in your browser, I'm including it in the video's description for your convenience too, and you're good to go. But it's probably best if I show you. Let's try Dogs of War first. So I'll type in its name here, hit enter and wait till the site does what it does best. Not the fastest, but best. And process my inquiry. Dogs of War is an arcade shooter which for all intents and purposes is quite fun. And we'll try to play it for a minute or two just to check if everything's running fine. So, we gotta pick one, and as you see there's quite a few of these here, and they're all the same game. Just a different version, usually cracked by a different cracking team. Let's pick one of the first few, and click. As you see there's not much here, so all we gotta do is click on that speaker icon to enable sounds, and then power to load the game up. Now, clearly there's no settings here, which may be easier for those who don't dabble much in emulation, but for those that do, may seem limiting. Anyway, the only real issue I have with Internet Archive website's way of running the Amiga here is that there's no on-screen indication of disk activity, so you never really know when the disk is loading, and given how long it can take on the Amiga, it may seem like the game hanged while in fact it's still being loaded up. So keep that in mind and always give the game a little while, even when it feels as if it's taken some time already. Alright, the game loaded up, sounds are on and it runs fine. You control it with cursor keys as your joystick movements and right shift as your fire button. Simple as that. Clearly this may not be the best way to play Amiga games, but it definitely is one of the easiest ways of doing so. Toasty! Since we've got the shooter out of the way, let's try something that uses mouse controls. How about one of the Lemmings games? Once again type in the name, hit enter and wait. It took a little while but it loaded up just fine, so let's run it because there's an issue I'd like to show you. The mouse is not trapped within the gameplay area, so it keeps popping out whenever I move it to both sides. Luckily, there's an easy fix, just click on the full screen button and all works fine there. See? Okay, Lemmings is fine and all, but let's see if something faster moving, more demanding would work too. How about Vroom? A pretty fun arcade F1 racer that's famous for how fast it runs, even on most basic systems. So same as before, we'll type the name in, load it up and see how it works. It takes a little while and when the title screen loads up and I can hear the music, I gotta hit fire. So right shift, and then it will load up the menu. Let's pick the options, joystick controls and run this bad boy. And we wait, and it works. Surprisingly well. It's so simple and yet so functional. Despite some games not working or plain missing, Internet Archive did hell of a job bringing the Amiga gaming to the masses through their web browsers. I gotta admit, some games here just plain don't work and I don't know why. Like Turrican for instance. I tried this one before and it just froze. So let's see if another one will run fine. Maybe this. Hit power to load it up, click through the crack throw, and we'll wait till it loads up. What you see now is sped up a tiny bit as I waited for it to load up, but it never did. So like I said, some games just don't seem to work, but that's acceptable given how many do. For a little while I thought that perhaps it's the multi-disc games that don't function within the browser, but it ended up not being the case either. I'll run Frontier to prove it. It's a 2-disc title and it will load up just fine. And while that changes nothing and still doesn't solve the issue, it actually highlights an interesting thing. Just look how the game runs. If you compare it how it looked in the intro to my third episode of 10 years of Amiga gaming, it's a night and day difference. Clearly, Internet Archive's website emulates the very basic A500 with 1 MB of RAM. It's not bad per se, just keep in mind that those more demanding games will not run their best. But since they're just a fraction of all titles, it shouldn't be a big of annoyance really. This video is not as long as the last 10 I've released, but it's supposed to be a breather, for both you and myself, to catch up with other live stuff. That said, just 1 or 2 more of those shorter ones and I'm back on the history series. And this time I'll try to tackle the impossible. 10 most active years of MS-DOS gaming. Even though Amiga had a lot of great games, DOS dwarfed it in a sheer scope of released titles. So picking up the best will not be easy or quick. And while I will do my best to have them released as fast as possible, I just can't in good faith promise a week-by-week release, and I think it will be more like 10 to 14 days per video on average. It may be disappointing to some, and honestly to myself as well, but since I also have a day job, I just can't squeeze any more hours out of the day than there already are in it. Hope you understand. So if you liked the video, hit those like and subscribe buttons below. And if you're in a more generous mood, you may consider joining my Patreon. It will help me release more better videos, upgrade my aging editing rig, and maybe even get a camera. You know, good stuff for the channel to get better. Anyway, that is all from me, so have a good one and I'll see you next time. Peace.